Welcome to session 4 of the VIP Destination Intensive Training. By now, you are probably starting to see how this could be possible for you. Having an intensive not only helps your client grow, but it also helps you grow as well because you're dedicating typically an entire day to your clients. Whereas normally you are with them for just a short period of time, such as during like a one-on-one session. Now, rather than doing a full day intensive, something that you can offer is a mini intensive, like a 2 or 3 hour mini intensive. You could also do a half day intensive, like a 4-hour intensive. Otherwise, a full day intensive, we typically do 6 hours. Now, you're probably wondering, well, if a half day intensive's 4 hours, why is a full day 6? You'll want to refer back to our prior sessions because if you have anything longer than about 6 hours, you start to kind of decline as far as your attention span. These are super intense, so you are going to be spending a lot of time together, like highly focused. So anything longer than 6 hours just is a little bit stressful and takes a lot out of you. So let's say that you have a trip coming up. What you can do is, if you want to try and fit as many clients in as possible and you don't necessarily want to do like a half or a full day intensive, you can offer those mini intensives with a buffer in between, of course, but you can offer maybe 2 or 3 of those in a day to several different clients. Typically what I like to do is I pay attention to flight deals. There's Scott's Cheap Flights that I am signed up for, as well as a few others, but that's probably my favorite one. And what it does is every single day I get flight deals. Basically they scour the web for all of these different deals that airlines have, and that's how I got my trip to Norway. Even though I can afford these trips, I find myself going to places I wouldn't normally go by paying attention to those flight deals. For example, I got a trip from DC to Oslo and back for 124 US dollars round trip, and I spent 9 days there. So, understandably, I couldn't say no to going to Norway. It was an incredible trip. So I could have offered intensives all over Norway or even Scandinavia or somewhere, in that region. I didn't do it this time, but just to give you an idea, like you could say, okay, here's where I'll be traveling to. If you'd like to host an intensive there, let me know. Does that make sense? Now, you're probably wondering how you should be pricing this. For destination intensives, you have to think that there's going to be a bit more overhead. Like if you were just doing a Skype intensive, I would be okay with you charging a little less. I used to think that, they're paying for your time, but if you live in the middle of nowhere like I do, and you're actually going to be traveling somewhere and you have to book an Airbnb or a hotel suite or something like that, your overhead could be significant. So you want to make sure that the prices that you're charging not only cover your overhead, but also give you profit. So I wouldn't want to see anybody charging just $50 an hour for your intensive. Because if you were to do a 6-hour intensive at $50 an hour, that's like $300 just for your 6 hours. And for some of you, you might think, oh, that's pretty cool. But if you're flying somewhere and booking a room, like you would be losing money, right? So typically for my newer coaches, their packages start out at no less than 2,000 US dollars, because if we break it down, let's say that your flight is like $500. So that's already leaving you with just $1,500 left. Okay. And then let's think about what else you might spend it on. Let's say you've got a hotel suite. That's probably $400 or $500. So just to be on the safe side, that's another $500 you take off. And then you got to think about transportation. Let's say that's $100. That's leaving you with $900 so far. And that doesn't include like lunch or snacks or an assistant or anything like that. So at minimum, you're looking at about $2,000 US. Now, if you decide that you want to have an intensive somewhat locally to you, that's okay too. But for the purposes of this training, we're just talking about destination intensives. Occasionally what I'll do is, if I have a bunch of trips planned, I'll send out to my list, hey, I'm going to be in like Montreal, I'm going to be in Tulum, I'm going to be in New York City, I'm going to be in Chicago on these dates. Let me know if you would like to have an intensive. Oftentimes people end up booking those just based on those emails. Sometimes I'll have to, send it out to my social media list, but occasionally I'll also have a group of entrepreneurs like in one of those locations who each want to do their own intensive. And so I offer a special rate because I'm not having to have that much overhead if I'm already going to be there anyway. So those are some things you need to think about. Another fun thing that I like to do is I like to do like a flash sale offer. Now, I'm not a big fan of like discounting your services or sales or anything like that. However, these can be really effective for a nice cash injection, and it also lowers that barrier of entry for your clients who want to work with you. Something you can do is like a back to school special. I know that I've done Halloween specials, like I did one for New Orleans and said, for a Halloween special, you can book your intensive in New Orleans. You can have like a Labor Day special for the holidays, or a New Year, New You type of special. Understand too that you can't just give these specials to people and expect them to buy from you, even if it is discounted off of what you typically would charge. The reason for that is because you need to provide them value first. You need to build a relationship with them first before you ever try to sell to them. That would be like, swiping right, having a date that night, to a bar, then asking somebody to marry you immediately. Like, it's tacky. It doesn't work, okay? You need to make sure that you are actually providing value to your audience. Your audience will then see that value and then want to work with you. It's not the other way around. So if you want to work on your pricing, what I encourage you to do is write out everything that you might need to purchase for the intensive. Take a look at some flights of a destination that you want to go to, and then figure out what hotel or Airbnb you would use. That will give you an idea of what your overhead is, and then make sure that on top of that you are having profit. Some of you are thinking, oh gosh, like $100 an hour is an amazing rate. I could get way less than that working in corporate. But you also need to realize that this is a completely different industry. You're not just getting paid to data process. You are actually like doing an intensive. It's a significant amount of work in a very short period of time. So more than $100 an hour. So I can't wait to see what you price yours at. Let me know if you have any questions.